I was 19 years old the morning they brought her through the streets of Paris. I had been standing near the Rue Saint-Honore copyright since before dawn, wedged between a tanner and his wife, neither of whom I knew. We had come for the same reason everyone else had a euro, not out of hatred, not entirely, but because history has a gravity to it and you feel it pulling at your legs before you even understand what you are walking toward. The tumbril moved slowly. That surprised me. I had expected something faster, something that matched the noise of the crowd. But the wheels ground against the cobblestones at a pace that felt almost deliberate, as if the city itself was not yet sure it wanted to finish what it had started. She sat upright. That is the thing I told my son about, years later, when he was old enough to ask where I had been during those years. I told him she sat upright. Her hair had been cut close to her neck. Her hands were bound behind her. She wore a simple white dress and a black ribbon at her collar, and she looked out at all of us with an expression I have spent 30 years trying to name correctly. It was not defiance. It was not grief. It was something closer to the look a person wears when they have already finished grieving and what remains is just the waiting. The crowd around me was loud. Men were shouting things I will not repeat. A woman near the front threw something, though I could not see what it was. A child on a man's shoulders waved a small flag, not understanding, probably, what any of it meant. I did not shout. I do not know why. I had been angry enough the week before, angry enough the month before that. But standing there, watching the wheels turn, I found my anger had gone somewhere I could not locate. When the tumbril passed close to where I stood, for just a moment I could see her more clearly. She turned her head once toward the crowd on my side of the street, not searching for anything, I think, just turning, the way a person does when they are trying to hold themselves in the present moment and the present moment keeps slipping. Our eyes did not meet. I would not claim that. But I was close enough to see that her lips were moving slightly, and the man beside me said she was praying, and I believed him. They had called her the widow Capet by then, stripped of every title, every name that had carried weight. The papers called her that. The proclamations called her that. I had repeated it myself, in conversations, in arguments at the tavern, as though the renaming settled something. Standing there, I was no longer sure what it had settled. At the scaffold, she stepped down from the tumbril without assistance, though her hands were still bound. She stumbled once, just slightly, on the steps leading up, and she turned to the executioner and said something to him. I was not close enough to hear it, but a man who had been near the base of the scaffold told me afterward, in a wine shop on the Rue de Rivoli, that she had stepped on the man's foot and apologized. He said it as though it was absurd, as though the manners of it were an offense of some kind. I did not find it absurd. I found it the saddest thing I had ever heard. The drum roll started. I looked away before the blade fell. I am not ashamed of that. Many people did. The roar that came up from the crowd a moment later told me what had happened, and I stood there in the noise of it and felt nothing I had expected to feel. I walked home alone that afternoon along the river. The city felt the same as it had that morning, which itself felt wrong, though I could not say what I had expected to change. The bread sellers were still at their carts. The water was still brown and moving. Somewhere behind me the crowd was still celebrating something, or performing the celebration of something, which is not always the same thing. My mother asked me that evening if I had gone to see it. I told her yes. She asked me how I felt. I told her I did not know yet. She nodded as though that was the right answer, or at least an honest one, and she set a bowl of soup in front of me and we did not speak of it again that night. I am an old man now. I have outlived most of the people who were standing in that street with me. I have outlived the republic that ordered it and the empire that followed and the restoration that came after that. I have tried, over the years, to decide what I believed about that day. I am still not finished deciding. I am not sure I ever will be.